Little man. What's going on, everyone? This is straight out of Compton from Little Man YGO back again for a Amaryllis related video. And not just any Amaryllis related video. We're going to be talking about the side deck options within Amaryllis because it's a very unique deck at the end of the day. You could play the boy, you could play Amaryllis, but there's obviously some interesting side deck options because the deck operates on such a unique axis. So basically what I wanted to do is just kind of go over some of the cards that I've tried or theorized um as I was putting together the deck itself. So obviously, as you see here, there are tons of different options that you could pretty much pick and choose from. Some of them are a little bit more meta dependent than others. However, we wanted to include them anyway just to see how far we could think outside the box. Because when you are playing Amaryllis, the best deck in the world, you're always thinking outside the box. So just jumping right into it, obviously counter, burial, card destruction, fiend comedian. I've talked ad nauseum with this topic. So please watch my first video that explains the counter package, why it is the way that it is, and what cards I side out for it. Very interesting. So other areas too is Sirocco and Gale. So there's some cool, interesting, like, and you even see this with some Glide Beast options here that like you could side in like their engine pieces and have it work. So I kind of like the playing with the idea of Gale for a couple of reasons. One, you could hit an armory, grab a Mark of the Rose, and then take their Blackwing monster and then special summon this. So like it bypasses that. You cannot normal summon clause that's on Hidden Armory. You could also like just summon this off Shiro if you just taking this or beating over things with it, which is a very nice +1 to get. And also you synchro in the big synchro. So, and if you're also playing Tomato too, this might actually be like a very Fort Worthy option because like you could just grab it off Tomato. It makes your break controls a little bit better. So this is a nice card. Obviously, we like our boy Sirocco here. The difference between Sirocco and Cyber Dragons, this guy can only be like normal summon. So it doesn't work well with Hidden Armory, but like being able to just plop it, just pump him up huge, swing over something, and then utilize other burn damage like Magic Cylinder or Amaryllis to at least take off the remaining courses. So it does progress you towards your own game plan. Obviously, Cyber Dragon works so well with Hidden Armory, 2100 attacker. It's insane versus like machines and even like those like Hero Bead decks. I sometimes side one going second against the Hamster Raikou decks just because like it helps me hit into the set without losing tempo, so I could put my own set down afterwards, right? And tempo is a very big thing, especially when it comes to this deck. Um, it's also insane against that Diva Hero Beat deck, that one with the Spine Yeomans and the Neos Aliases and stuff, because they're always making Catastor against you. And then if you just have this for their Catastor, you're just eating their Catastors all the time. So this card is obviously pretty good in that regard. DD Crow, generic side X staple. Did not cite it in the past because I thought the comedians were enough, but I cited it now because it's a little bit more targeted and guaranteed removal. You can also search it all Sangan too, and it's a dark. So when you take Dark Arm, you could just like pop with it. So and that's kind of relevant at the end of the day. Erin is currently in my side deck, and she's an absolute boss. She's good against the recruiter deck like with fairies and zombies, and she's a mill 3 on top of it. She's a standalone good card that's searchable off Charge of the Light Brigade. Like, what else could you look for in this card? This card is very, very, very strong. It was actually in the first place list, that first place Norlos list, that €1. This card's amazing. I think it's very strong and highly slept on, at least for what its utility it brings to the deck for. Fossil Dyna and then Kaiku kind of put them in the same. Like, Kaiku's getting really popular lately. I think this card feels very weak, but it's neither here nor there. The card's able to prevent you from your opponent from getting banishes off, and it's actually like solid against us. Fossil Dyna is a little bit better against us, but we like to side this in. Or at least I used to side one just so I could like summon it before attacking into a Gorz, guaranteeing that's not going to be the case. Consecrated Lights, Blackwings is another rough matchup, so like putting this card in is very good. You could even side it in with 1-for-1 to get a discard outlet to still have your versus normal summon. It doesn't affect anything in your deck. This card's pretty good. It just sucks when you get a cursed attack. That's really about it. So, and here's a saucy part. the saucy sauce is the Gladiator Beast package, right? So most people just play Bestiari at the end of the day, but there are moments where I've tried the Quarry too, because you want to loop into at least the other one of these if you do have, or if one of them gets outed, you don't want to have not have another one in your deck. And it turns your like Mark of the Roses and your brain controls into outs for their Glad Beast monsters and just like these free +1s. And obviously, if you bring up Bestiari, it brings you more advantage. And if you have Bestiari and have any of the brain control cards, you could just like Geyseris their ass, and it feels very, very nice. Also, the cool thing with the Quarry is that it's a fire. You know what else is a fire? Volcanic counter. So put some food for your noodle with that one right there. And I know I have Herc here. It doesn't come up, but you can make it. Lava Golem, very strong card, level 8 monster, fire monster, outs 2 monsters. It used to be in my side deck. I might put it back in, but the problem with this card is that it gets countered hard by Fossil Dyna, and you don't want to side deck cards that lose to their side deck cards, if that makes sense. So I kind of opted to just like kind of keep this to the side. It's a great trade-in target. It's a solid monster overall. You could summon it to their board and then steal with Mark of the Rose and then beat it for 3,000, and they get it back there in their standby and burns for another 1,000. It's 4K worth of damage on one card. The card is amazing. Tragodia Gores. Tragodia better than Gores, of course, in this deck because and Tragodia usually will come in the side against like Absolute Zero or even some of the zombie deck, any of those push decks. Because taking their monsters is so nice, and especially when you're discarding like these dead Titaniums, these dead Amaryllises that you have in your hand, so good. Gores, because it's Gores, but you have so much board presence that this card feels like very lackluster. And then finally, Vanity's Fiend. It helps you convert off your Snatch Deal cards, so it might be worth exploring a little bit harder than like say Fossil Dyna. It's a little bit harder to out than Fossil Dyna. You can't. They need a big fella to run him over, and then big fellas don't exist in this format. Giant Trunade, really good against the back row decks. Considered it, had not tested or tried it. Vortex Smashing Ground. It's against like these stupid cards right here. These stupid idiot monsters that they bring in. You got to kind of counter side against them with this. So nice little package. And of course, Soul Release. The magical one up in the side deck that if you play more than one, you're bad. But it's good against the mirror match. It's good against some frog decks. But we already have Fiend Comedian here, and this card is wild, man. This card says banish the graveyard, baby. Okay, Mind Control. If we're siding harder into these, it might make sense to side into Mind Control too. And you have 6 ways, especially if you're going against the flip deck. If you see like a Hamster Raikou deck, you just take the face down hand for flip deck, get your own Raikou, or get the Raikou, and then like plus off and do some Go format things, baby. Shout out the Go format for being the best format. But we're talking about Edison, so enough of my rant. Next, Miracle Dig. This card is not that good. It's worth considering though. So I have it in here, and then Book of Moon. Book of Moon is like solid against if you're getting mirror forced or you're getting like it's a good way of like protecting your dudes. It's a defensible trap. I could go about the applications for Book of Moon forever, but like I didn't feel like I tested it myself. I didn't really like it too much. Bottomless Blackwing decks still in there. Glad Beasts, we fold to those decks, but it's still in there against that. Burn cards such as like Ceasefire, Dimension Wall, Magic Cylinder, they side more towards the Lava Golem stuff. The Ceasefire is a little bit better against like those Hamster Raikou decks, like Quick Draw. I found that like I don't like it turns off the sets, which is kind of nice, and it inflicts burn damage, which is also nice. So like if you're bringing back like Amaryllis and you're just clogging your board full of effect monsters, like this thing, I've had this thing go 15, 2,000, $2,500 points in damage. It's really solid. Divine Wrath, the spice of the side deck. Side out of Wing Blast for this thing. It pushes through Gores. It pushes through Caius. It helps beat out Raikou. It stops a lot of the key. This card is really, really good. Like it stops Zero. It can stop Black Rose Dragon. Its applications are endless. There's a reason why Solemn Strike was like a very prominent card from like 2016 to like 2020. It's because of being able to negate card effects. And this card is like nice because we can push our like Amaryllis or dead counters if we put them in. Final Attack Order. Shout out to my boy Samuel. He's been really on this card in his side deck for his Amaryllis build. He's playing the best deck. He has a good side. This is a big brain side deck choice that he kind of risen to me. The idea is that they attack your defense position Amaryllis with their weenie monsters, because they always attack Amaryllis with their weenie monsters. You flip this over on attack declaration, Amaryllis gonna switch to attack. They take a ton of damage. Amaryllis comes back in attack position. Lila turns into a Harpy's Feather Duster because it says pop and then turn to a defense, and it's not a once per turn. So it keeps switching back to attack, so you're able to blow up the entire back row, which is crazy. And if they have like Spirit Reaper and Danny tokens and Treeborn Frog and Duplock, like they all those cards come out of attack, and you're just like destroying them with their monsters. It's nice. It's a nice. Cylinder's great against the Blackwing matchup. I still have this in Dimensional World, less so much. If you're going too close to like the burn stuff in the side deck, it might be warranted, but like again, it's tough to say. These are good against like the Bora decks and the Blackwing decks and those BS decks. Now, Needle Sealing and Proof of Powerlessness. So everyone knows this. No one really knows what this card does. So what this card does is, if you control level 7 or higher monster, you can destroy all level 5 or lower monsters your opponent controls, and your monsters you control cannot attack. So you don't need to have a specific 4 or more monster count the way that you do with Needle Sealing, but you are limited to level 5 and lower. So like you could out Catasters, you could out Androids, you could out monsters that they try to attack in with, and you get to keep all of your monsters. Whereas with Sealing, it could kill your face-up Amaryllis for sure, which kind of sometimes helps if they're about to get banished. But more importantly, it only kills face-up monsters. So this could be bad because it doesn't kill your opponent's face downs. But like if you have a set Raikou and you have this with Amaryllis, and then they say Bora Blackwing. I know I'm talking about Blackwings a lot, but even to go like Diva Gilman, you're able to flip this, pop their board, and still have the Raikou set, so you can target the back row with it. The floodgates of choice: Skill Drain, Royal Oppression, and then Royal Decree. Decree and Skill Drain, they're one of them in my side deck. You don't need more than one. You either see them or you don't, but they're not good to see in multiples. Skill Drain allows you to just keep Amaryllis in attack and just like beat over everything. Royal Oppression is good when these two cards in general are just good when Titania's on the field, because you're negating MSTs and Dust Tornadoes and stuff like that, and there's no way of targeting. So you have like a soft lock on the opponent where like it just feels like game when these are up and you have like these things rolling. And also paying 800, if your opponent pays 800, you can just keep getting back Amaryllis if you continue to have the feel for it. So it's pretty good in that regard. And then Transmigration Prophecy, the better Kaiku that goes to shore, and better Soul Release, because one is a trap card, so it's reactive. Number two, it puts the cards into the deck. And this is insane against even the mirror match too. This is a very slept on card in general. I think this is like one of the best like side deck cards in the format that like no one is really playing. So I would suggest like putting this card in your side deck. You could reuse some cards from your graveyard into your deck. Like if you want to put Hidden Armories back, you can put them back. You could put back, if they blow through their Frog Edge and put their Treeborns back, especially because they have the hard draw of them. They can't just like, they blew through all their rock stuff, so they can't do anything with this. I've talked about this card's praise. This card's amazing. This card is so good. Return. The more that I see Soul Release and Kaiku, the more that I want to side cards like this, just so like when they're attacking it. First of all, this card is an FTK with Lone Fire Blossom, because if you have all these Lone Fires that are in your banish pile, you get them back, and then you have more monsters to follow up with. You just attack the game with it. You synchro summon with it. You can do the zombie things that zombies wish you could do, like play Emeralds and Titania, but they can't because they're zombies and they're boring and balls, but that's okay. Dust Tornado against like the Blackwing decks, the back row, all that fun stuff in Miravos. Just the Gladiator Beast deck. But we've accepted our defeat against Gladiator Beast. I don't side these cards at all because I just don't see it enough. And I've already accepted. And sometimes when you play against Glads, you just got to accept your losses and just say, wow, you're a very bad deck. So that's all I have for you today. So please like, comment, subscribe, and tell me, what do you side in Amaryllis? Leave it in the comments below. Hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.